The AST Voltson Super Trucks is back at the Terre Haute Action Track this week, where we have the largest entry list for any race that has been run that is not at the Michigan International Speedway. 27 trucks have showed up to the Indiana Dirt Track this weekend for the race, and in the midst of the championship battle, as there are only 2 races left in the season. The championship contenders will have to be extra careful not to run into trouble here today, as a poor finish will cost even more points than normal with such a large starting field. Leading everyone to the green, and much to the delight of the home crowd, is Jason Miller in the number 40 car. Miller and his team, Operation JM, have competed at the Terre Haute Action Track for the last 12 years. Miller, of course, won the first 2 races of the season, but hasn't started a race since Toledo. But in his first race back, he puts the truck on the pole position. Not much of a surprise considering all of his experience here. He's being challenged, though, on the end of the first lap by Robbie Ruiz in 28. But as you can see, the yellow flag is flying. The caution comes out on the first lap as Mike Ramos makes a move underneath Wilson Timothy into turn 1, but gets into the side of the 61 and turns him to the inside. They come down the track and collect John White, and Alex Martinez gets a pretty good piece of that as well as he tries to drive away. Martinez, one of the title contenders coming into the day, and this is certainly not what he needed. On board the 48 right now, he got a pretty good view of Ramos, not leaving Wilson Timothy enough room on the outside and turning him down low. Not very significant damage to Martinez's car, but it is of course not going to help him whatsoever. After the restart, Miller leads them back to the green, but Ronald Way makes a move to the inside of Robbie Ruiz to take the second position. He's being followed by the 40C of Camden Rhodes, who bumps the 28 car in turn 2. Rhodes is the aforementioned 3rd car that Operation JM has entered for this race. He's been competing at Terre Haute since only last year, so he has much less experience than his 2 teammates, but he's running in the top 5 in his first start in the series. So he's making a very good first impression. We have another driver today making their first start. That is the 6 car. This truck was entered in one other race this season by the Binford Racing Team, and it was driven at Nelson Ledges by Amy Robinson. However, the team has brought in Brian Kelly today. Kelly will also be racing at the Berlin Raceway, and is rumored to be in this car next year as well, and he is having a very good first showing as well, running with Rhodes in the top 5. As the rest of the top 5 drivers battle for position, Jason Miller has opened up a bit of a lead over the rest of the field. The 40 car has had the fastest truck all weekend, and he is certainly showing that in the race. As our 2 debutantes continue to battle with each other, Rhodes gets around Kelly for the 3rd position. Ronald Way is still running at 2nd place, having the best run of his career. But as you can see from the camera shot, and from this flyby camera as well, the leaders are actually beginning to close in on Miller. He is no longer pulling away from the rest of the field. And the other Operation JM car, the title contender Danny Vigo, was running in 6th on the restart, but has dropped way down the order. He's found himself in the outside lane and has lost several positions. This is the worst possible time for Vigo to have a poor run, and especially with Michael McKinley working his way forward. He gets around Kelly and moves into the top 5 now. Further back in the midfield, we have some very fierce competition for position. Mary Brousseau going to the inside of Kathy Gargalock and Daniela Jacobson to make it 3 wide. Brousseau, the other hometown team, Curtis Sawyer's Racing, of course, has competed at this track for several decades, although Brousseau is from Michigan. She's getting around Martinez as well, and there's more 3 right in front of her. Some very close action here in the midfield. Allison Ashburn and John White going in at 4th position with Brianna Princehorn. White and Ashburn had a good run at Winston Speedway, the other dirt track this year, and Princehorn has had a very lackluster season considering how well Churchill incorporated did last year. That team, of course, now running as Lake Erie Motorsports. Camden Rhodes is working his way into the top 2, as Ronald Way has fallen off a little bit. The 40C moves to the inside and makes it an Operation JM 1-2 once again at the front. And we have another driver working his way forward rather quietly, is the 500 of Jeffrey Jackson. Jackson was of course one of the few drivers who failed to qualify last week at Dell's Raceway Park, and he must not be very happy about that because he is driving the wheels off the 500 truck today as he moves into the top 5. And it isn't only him on the Homegrown Racers team that is doing well today. Jenny Jackson, his younger sister, is moving to the inside of the 6 as well, only moments later. The homegrown racers team and drivers are also from the state of Indiana. They are based in Fort Wayne, and they want to put on a good performance for their home crowd as well. As we look at the leaders again, Jason Miller has definitely lost the big lead that he had earlier, and to his teammate Camden Rhodes. Despite having so much less experience than Miller, both at this track and in this series, the 40C has been chasing down his boss, and here he comes to the inside off of turn number 4. Miller took a wider line through the turn than he has been for most of the race, and Rhodes is going to complete the pass and take the lead of the race. Michael McKinley has literally been the only driver who has completed a pass on Jason Miller in his first 3 races of the season, but now the 17-year-old one-off finds himself at the front in his home race and trying to become the 3rd Operation JM car to win a race this season. And speaking of Michael McKinley, he's going to get by Jason Miller only a couple of laps later, and then Jeffrey Jackson is going to get by him soon after. So the 40 car continuing to drop through the field as the race is approaching the final 10 laps. Here we have the battle for the 7th position between Ronald Way and Amberly Weiss, as Weiss gets around Darrell Quick and now comes after the 69 truck. Way has been having one of the better races of his career by running in the top 5 all day, but he has slowly fallen off, and Amberly Weiss, qualified in 8th and now moving into 7th, is having another great run on a dirt track. Kevin Thompson, Zach Churchill, and Nancy Keith are all running in positions 13 through 15. They have been driving right together for most of the race, but have not been able to pass one another. They're all having fairly average runs here today. And Michael McKinley has slowly been closing in on the 40C of Camden Rhodes. It looks like the battle for the lead isn't over yet because McKinley's moving to the inside into turn number 1. The 99M, of course, remember, led the entire race here last year, but there were no Operation JM cars in that event, as McKinley clears Rhodes for the lead. McKinley was one of the favorites heading into today's race to challenge for the win, but it didn't look like he had the car to do so until about the last 10 laps. In the meantime, his points rival Danny Vigo finds himself outside of the top 20 now, having one of the worst showings of his season so far, not doing his title hopes any good. Hunter Blaze in the 71 is having one of the quietest runs of anyone today. He finds himself in 6th place now. He did very well in this race last year and is trying to catch up to Jenny Jackson, but Michael McKinley has left Camden Rhodes in his mirrors and has now taken the white flag. There's been a lot of attention today given to the Operation JM cars, as they have done very well in their home race, but McKinley, it looks like he's about to steal the win from them, and on the final turn of the final lap, Rhodes is being challenged by the 500 of Jeffrey Jackson. Jackson makes a run on him down the front stretch, but the 40C barely beats him back to the line for 2nd. A good finish for the 2nd position, but in front of them, Michael McKinley rounds the final turn, and with a great late race charge, is going to win at the Terre Haute Action Track for the 2nd year in a row. This is the first time that any driver has won at a track for 2 consecutive seasons, and after the race coming into the pits, there's a bit of a stack-up. Mike Ramos, Allison Ashburn, and Danny Vigo all get damage. However, it is not very significant. McKinley scores the 5th victory of his career and has now won 3 of the last 4 races on dirt tracks. Camden Rhodes almost becomes the 3rd Operation JM truck to win a race this season, but it is still a very impressive debut for the young driver, coming home in 2nd in his first start and in front of a home crowd. Jeffrey Jackson is making his 2nd career start, and he finishes in 3rd with a fantastic run from yet another Indiana native. In fact, the top 5 drivers are all from the state of Indiana, with Jason Miller coming home in 4th and Jenny Jackson having a great run of her own, finishing in 5th. Hunter Blaze finishes in 6th, Amberly Weiss is in 7th. Darrell Quick, another one of the title contenders, finishes in 8th. Rachel Kowalczyk works her way all the way up from a last row starting position to finish in 9th, and Ronald Way rounds out the top 10. And now, with only 1 race remaining in the 2015 season, we now have the championship scenario. 3 drivers are left to fight for the title at Berlin. With the victory, McKinley opens up a 63-point lead over Danny Vigo in 3rd after Vigo finishes the day in 23rd place. Vigo is surpassed by Darrell Quick, who after finishing in 8th is 44 points behind McKinley. The 82 and the 80 will each have a lot of work to do if they're going to challenge McKinley for this title, especially considering that the 99M is is the defending winner of the Voltson 100. Vigo, in particular, cannot beat McKinley for the title unless he wins the race, and even so, McKinley is going to have to finish very poorly. Regardless of who comes out as the champion, we have a very exciting finale that awaits us at the Berlin Raceway on Labor Day weekend.